Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So recently I put up a walkthrough, like a song production, songwriting walkthrough of my playthrough I made for the One Kit Wonder Aggressive Rock Kit, and you seem to like it, so I thought why not go back a playthrough and do the same idea for my Modern Fusion playthrough that I made. Enough said, let's dive right into it. So here is my session. This is the songwriting session. So this isn't the session where I've exported the stems to mix, although I mixed most of it as I was writing, but I still export it into my mixing template. But I thought this is where I did all of like the sound design and songwriting kind of production stuff. So I thought I would use this one. The whole song was written in about 2 hours, which for me is really quick, which is why the session's kind of a mess. Not very well organized. But that doesn't matter, man. It's very much sort of a flow of conscience, just songwrite itself kind of thing, which rarely happens for me, so this was fun. So for this, as I said, obviously I'm using the Modern Fusion kit. Just stock, nothing on the instrument channel, parallel and master EQ engaged. I've got it on high CPU scaling, but that's it. I don't think I did anything else. Maybe put some, I put some reverb and stuff in using the mixer. But let's dive right into it. So the song starts with this sort of guitar intro, and I think this is where my inspiration got me going. This is the first thing I wrote. So this was done on my Fender Strat in standard tuning. I was just messing around and I played that, and it was really vibey. So I went with it. On there, it's just, I think for this I used my Axe FX, but on this I use FabFilter's Timeless to get that chorus, the Ensemble Chorus XS preset there. So I'll just A-B that, show you what it's like with and without. So that's a really cool chorus, it's really vibey. And then on the other side we've got tone with a little bit more bite. So we've got more gain on there on the original tone, and then we've got that same chorus and then this repeater plugin. And I chose the pitchy 3, so it's kind of like modulating the pitch a bit, which is like a sort of vintagey tape delay kind of thing. And it was instant vibe. And then I thought it sounded really cinematic, and I was messing around. I had my microphone set up from something I was recording earlier that day, and I don't know, I decided to put a voiceover intro into it with this weird kind of American. It kind of reminded me of like, oh crap, what's it called? True Detective. It reminded me of True Detective. I don't know what it means. I think I just recorded it and it came out. But on there we've got a De-Esser, and then running it through Saturn for that cool sort of lo-fi distortion. So I'll just A-B that so you can hear what it sounds like. This is probably going to be embarrassing for me.
So eager I am.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
Tirade of energy balls coming through.
But with the distortion it sounds okay. Hire me for your voiceover. And then that's just going into a reverb. When I'm really inspired by something I'm writing, I kind of have like this whole image of a video in my head as I'm writing. I don't know why, but I'm a very visual writer when I try and write music. I find it helps inspire and sort of capture a mood. I know some people sometimes even put like movie clips into their session, which is something I want to experiment with. I haven't got around to it yet, but I can totally get why, because it sort of helps inspire and sometimes lead to the next section of the song. But I was kind of imagining, like in this section, like someone driving along a long dusty road in the middle of America somewhere, a long way from anybody, having some weird like internal monologue. But anyway, that's besides the point. Next section. So there's quite a bit going on in this section. So let's have a look at what I programmed. So as you can see for this section, I use pretty low velocities, like in the 89 region. Snares a bit harder on 105. When you're programming drums, don't feel like you have to use those high velocities, because if I was drumming in this section, I wouldn't be playing hard. I'd be playing sort of lower mid-range velocities and just letting the song sort of flow. And that's what I did with the programming here. So for bass, what have we got going on here? I've got 3 different bass tracks throughout the song. A bass clean, a bass dirt, which is kind of like a break-up tone, and then my big old distortion. But for the clean, let's have a look at what I've got going on here. An EQ into a compressor, nothing crazy about that, and then into satin for some sort of higher end distortion, just to make it nice and clear, I guess. So that's just without the satin. Just helps bring out some of that like pick definition. And then for guitar, just EQ compression. Kind of like a tweedy tone. I think I probably would try to use like an AC30 or something for that. And then here we're getting into sort of more of the sound designy stuff. So lead echo is obviously a lead guitar. We've got that same chorus as the intro, a repeater, and then we got smash and grab doing some compression here. You can see I'm really killing the transients in this. I kind of wanted it to be nice and flat and bring up the echoes as well, to make it all sort of nice and consistent, I guess, in dynamics. Without. You can hear them when I turn the compressor on in the tails, it really helps bring them up. And then we got banjo. So ages ago I bought a banjo, which I've rarely used, but in this it just sounded awesome. So I think I just used my Slate VMS condenser in front of it. I'd never recorded a banjo before, so I didn't really know what I was doing. But it worked well, I thought. And that's just EQ, compress, and reverb. What do we got next? This whale song. So this is something. Where to start on this? So this is me making weird noises into a microphone. I just thought it was really atmospheric. I think I was messing around with it. I think I had my mic channel like coming back through the speakers, and I was just playing the song, and I had all this gnarly distortion and echo and reverb on it, and I was just making weird noises into it and thought it sounded cool, so I hit record. Let's walk through the chain on this. So I started with Little Altar Boy to pitch it up a whole octave. That's without it. And with it. I absolutely love this plugin by Soundtoys. The pitch and formant shifters on this are spectacular, and the drive is killer. I haven't used any on this, but I love the drive. Into a De-Esser. I'm not even sure if that's doing anything on this. I think I just copied the chain over. Yeah, that ain't doing nothing. But whatever, it's there. Into Saturn, what have we got going on here? Old tape and a crunchy amp. So again, that's boosting the level by a lot. And adding some nice saturation, and then into Echo Boy, which is delay by Soundtoys, which is fantastic again. To add some vibe, and then a reverb on Logic's own reverb. It comes stock with Logic, and it's got loads of different reverbs on it. A mixture of IRs and then like synthesized reverbs. Real sick. But again, just letting the creativity flow, and it worked. And then here we have a breath. This is literally what it sounds like. It's a breath. I recorded a long, deep breath into the microphone. Without all the processing. I don't know, I went with it. Then we've got, again, Saturn. It's the same, it's the same distortion. EQ to cut the highs and lows, don't want those messing up my mix. And then, again, Echo Boy. There's a different reverb on this. Another stock Logic plugin though, Chroma Verb. And I went for the synth hall one because I wanted it to kind of, I don't know, I was after a very specific reverb sound on this, and this is, it worked. I don't know how to describe it, but you can hear it. That tail. I think it's like, it retains the high end really nicely. I think that's kind of what I was after. And then these are some percussion loops I used. So in this section, we've just got some like tambourine. Thing going on there, and then a Rhodes, like a Rhodes keyboard. It's just, yeah, this one, Scarby Mark 1, just doing some nice little notes. Into Saturn for some distortion, repeater, and an EQ. I use distortion a lot through this and in general. In context, it doesn't sound distorted. It's not super loud either, but that distortion helps bring up the presence to where you can hear it nice and clear. So that is that section dealt with. And then this next section, I guess you'd describe it as a pre-chorus. So a nice little, again, open and kind of flowing. Bass is the same tone as the previous section, but I'm just doing faster picking. So I've got Pro Q3, which has the dynamic EQ. So as you can see here, I'm boosting this range as well as using the dynamic EQ to just help sort of compress some of it. And here it just brings up some of that body and warmth, and then just cutting some 200. And then compressor, let's have a look. very slight compression. Let's change the scale on that to see what we're doing. Yeah, not much. So I've got these onto new channels because they haven't got the... yeah. So these have more dirt on them, so I took off the compression. It'd probably make more sense to just bypass the compressors, but when I'm songwriting, I don't want to have to go in and start automating things because I just want to get through the process as quickly as possible so I don't lose that inspiration, so I just duplicated the tracks. Nothing has changed on the lead, except it's kind of introduced this new motif. So everything's kind of sped up in intensity to try and build that expectation of the next section, which you want in a pre-chorus. Banjo. Wow, that sounds just like The Last of Us. I'm pretty sure it's the same beginning chord. And then we've got louder, faster tambourine on the percussion. Love a bit of timbre. And then Rhodes, we've gone into some arpeggios. In harmony with the banjo, I believe. Love a harmony. And then we've got, I just copied and pasted my breath, because it's kind of like a release before the final build into the big chorus. So on the drums in this section, that's pretty pivotal to the build actually. We switch over to the floor tom to really signify a new section. And then on to the ride to really sort of open this section up. Bass half times. Again, to give some relief before the final build into the chorus. And then we introduce this new synth here to add some like shiny little stars. Nice and pretty. I'm using Omnisphere. If you are looking to sort of get into synths, Omnisphere will do everything. Literally everything. It's got endless, nearly endless samples and a really powerful synth built in. For this I'm just using a preset, bell oscillations. But yeah, Omnisphere is crazy powerful. And then just running into that, probably the synth, oh no, a different reverb on Chroma Verb. So this Chroma Verb is kind of like a, I think what they try to do is something similar to what FabFilter did with their Pro R, which I don't own, so I used this. And you can EQ it, obviously, in this output EQ, but then you can, they call it the damping EQ, which is like where you can, so reduce the reflections of certain frequencies of the reverb, which is really a really cool thing. It really helps you sort of sculpt the reverb to your taste and to the arrangement. Then this nice tremolo guitar comes in. Let's see what we've got going on here. We've got Timeless again by FabFilter with that chorus, same chorus as before. Going into Verb Suite to give a nice hall reverb. And then just into Soothe to help tame some of those nasty frequencies which might be poking out. Pretty extreme. I know people say don't abuse it, and you shouldn't, but on certain source tones I find you can abuse it and get away with it, which is what I did here. And then we go into the big, heavier chorus. So switched to a new bass tone. We've got big old distorted tones, and on these, I think that was a comment, someone said like, oh my god, I've never heard a Strat sound so heavy. Thank you, firstly. I think it's a compliment. But what I did is I did the whole octaver trick. So it's like 50% the original tuning, and then it's layering in an octave down. So it's basically like standard E, and then an octave down below, so drop E or whatever. But that makes these guitars sound really big. And it just really helps sort of sink the whole thing into this sort of big, epic, large, almost like the guy driving along the dirt road has fallen into a black hole or something. So let's pick this apart. As I said, bass distortion has turned up. And for this distortion, I'm using the Grit plugin on Logic's default pedal board. This is a really cool distortion, and it's like a FET distortion, or a rack distortion if you want to call it that. So that's without and with. It can get pretty gnarly. I think for this guitar tremolo, I was kind of just improvising on what notes I was going to pick, and you can see I did a hard cut there. And it's because in this section, I do a nice little lead up and the riff changes to another build, because playthroughs shouldn't be too long, ideally. So in a normal world, I'd probably drop back to like one of the earlier riffs for another verse, but because it's a playthrough, I knew that I needed to kind of round it up, so I went into this huge different section, which I would have put at the end of the song if it was a fully fledged song. So this kind of acts as another sort of not a pre-chorus, pre-outro, I guess. So then we've got these screams. Again, it's me making weird noises into a microphone, but I thought it was a really cool texture. Sounds kind of dumb by itself, but in context, I think it's cool. Especially into the next section, I think it sounds really. I guess you want to hear it without the processing on. I don't want to show you it, but I'll show you because I guess I love you.
I'm fine.
Yeah. On to the next track. We've got My Breath, just as like another, kind of use it like a crash cymbal, I guess, like just a nice big psh thing. Now we're putting in some synths, y'all. So this pad, the top pad, because they're both called pad for some reason, is just offering some nice chords to kind of float through, and then this one is copying the guitars. the rhythm guitars. I think I put it in just to kind of give some extra grind to the guitars. The synth solo doesn't really sound that grindy, but mixed in it kind of adds to the high-end distortion of the guitars that I like. It's almost like it adds to the presence. So for this one, the guitar one, I'm using Serum. Just an extremely basic synth patch I put up. And then this one is Omnisphere again. Cream of Emotion 2 is the synth patch. And I don't think there's anything too specific about the notes I chose. It was just to create some extra movement through, and some extra floaty bits. And then for this sort of sub-boom, Omnisphere again. I guess you're starting to see what I mean when I say it can do anything. And then yeah, for the build up into the breakdown, I bring the snare onto the and then break it down. And then into the Heffy riff, as I've called it. So let's look at this. It's Yes, I turned the octave back off for this section. Something I like to do in builds like this is put just a pedal hat, because it kind of helps build the suspense. You're like, oh, the drummer's getting ready for something. And it gives you something to really nod your head to, almost like a backbeat. So without it. It still works perfectly well, but the hi-hat just gives it that thing to like, oh, okay, something's going on. And then I kept these little sort of guitar movements because it's kind of like, it sounds, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it gives the whole thing a bit of vibe. Like if you were watching live, the guitarist might have turned up his volume to get ready for the riff to come in, so you might hear his hands move a bit, and it kind of gives it more of an organic live feeling, which I was kind of vibing off on this track. And then a big old scream I put in, because why not? And yeah, no echo or reverb on that, because I wanted it to cut. In that massive boom. And then yeah, this is pretty straightforward. I've upped the bass distortion for this section. I've maxed out the bass distortion. And yeah, going back to what I was saying about the whole live feeling, like you can hear there's no gate on this. Because I don't want it to be super tight. Like this isn't some kind of really polished metal production. It's a groovy, rough song. Bringing back in those tambourines to help build the suspense further, and then this synth up. I captured this using my Moog Mother 32 synth, my mono synth, and it's just basically a massive riser. I put a ring mod on it, but we'll take that off just to see what it sounds like without it. So it's pretty gnarly even without the ring modulation, but with the ring modulation, it adds even more. And you can see that I am altering the frequency of the ring modulation throughout just to give it more of that rising. On the Moog itself, I made a patch and then was just physically recording in the pitch shift. The drums are just kind of increasing in intensity throughout this whole section, which is what I wanted, you know. I'm modulating the riff up a semitone each time I do it. I don't think it's a semitone actually, but it's modulating up, and as it does, the drums increase in intensity. We've got the double kick coming in and then straight up blast beats for the last section. And then we've got a scream again, just to add to the transition. Big open E chord with a tambourine and one of those bell things, a chime. This was a really fun one to make. It's not as dark as some of the stuff I write. I mean, it is pretty dark still, but for me it's quite light. So I had really fun time making it, and I think it shows. It's quite sort of different to what I usually make. And I think part of that comes from writing in standard tuning. I spend a lot of my time in sort of drop C, but I would never have written something like this if I had picked up my guitar that day in drop C. I picked up my Strat, which I don't do often, and this was the result. So I guess a takeaway is try new things if you want different results. Okay guys, I hope that was interesting. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed it, what you want to see differently, what you want to see more of, less of, and I'll do more probably. So I hope you are well, I hope you had a great time watching and listening to me ramble. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.